Okay, so now we're in the next section, and we're going to be talking about working with arrays. Up until this point now, in the last section, we learned about how we organize things with arrays. We introduced a couple of concepts to you. We're going to go even deeper later on, but we just want to introduce you to some of these things so that we can bring it all together. Because in chapter 9, we're going to really start putting these things together. If you're new to this channel and you're not a part of the cohort, you are welcome to follow along with the curriculum. The link is in the description. It's a free resource, doesn't cost you anything. Go ahead and take advantage of it. Okay, so before we hop into this next section, let's review. I want you to constantly keep reviewing as we going forward. What is a variable? Now, how do you declare a variable? So if I ask you declare a variable, what are you going to do? How will you do it? What is the syntax? How do you declare a variable and initialize that variable? Put the link in, put the answers in the comments down below, and we're now going to get into the curriculum. Working with arrays, bracket notations, and index. As previously discussed, arrays are an ordered collection. Remember that. Ordered collections where each item can be accessed via index. Similar to strings, an index in an array is the number of order given to items. Let me read that again. An index in an array is the number order given to an item. So what does that mean? If it's 5 items, it's giving a number to those items, but it starts at 0. Remember, it has to start with 0. The indexing starts with 0, but I'm going to end up with the number 4 for the 5th item. Individual items can be accessed using bracket notations. Here's the syntax. We have whatever our array is called, and we have the bracket notation, and then inside that bracket notation are the indexes. Indexes are 0 base, going from 0 to array.length -1. Remember that -1 that I told you about earlier on when we were talking about the strings? This is what this means, and we're going to explain. Use bracket notation and index to access items in an array. This is how you do it. Here, we're giving you the comment on each line. We are declaring and initializing a variable called programming languages. And we are initializing it with an array. An array that has different strings in it, 4 strings in it. JavaScript, Python, Java, C#, they're all in quotes. So the compiler knows that these are strings. This is an array or a collection of strings. And they're separated by commas. Now, index 0 is JavaScript. Index 1 is Python. Index 2 is Java. Index 3 is C#. Although there's 4 items, but the last index is index 3. Now, when I console.log, and console.log is what? It's an object, and we're using log as a method. And what we're trying to do, all it's doing is printing out this information. Programming languages at index 0. So what am I asking for? Give me whatever is at index 0. I want you to print that out using the bracket notation. So this bracket notation wants access to what is ever stored in this programming language object, which is a variable. Same here. Console.log, give me whatever is at index 3. And then it says here, what will happen when index 4 is requested? All right, here's our results. At index 0 is JavaScript. At index 3 is C#. But at index 4 it's saying it's undefined. Get used to this error. When you see this, is when you see undefined in your warnings, or if you give you an error, understand that it's letting you know that there's nothing there. You never defined it. So when you hear undefined, when we get the error message that the variable is undefined, when we get that reference error, undefined a variable, undefined it, that means that you never either given it a value, or it hasn't been initialized yet, or you haven't declared it yet. So it has to be declared, or it has to have what? It has to have a value assigned to it at some point. Okay, so get familiar when you see undefined. It says, notice above that undefined was printed out when index 4 was referenced. Remember, we're referencing what's inside of the array. Undefined is returned when request an index that the array does not contain. We're requesting something that's not there. It was never added. It's empty. It's not, and I ain't gonna even say it's empty. It's just not there. Undefined is a special value in JavaScript that means no value has been assigned. We will discuss undefined more later in the class. Examples. Undefined will be returned for any index that is outside of the array's index range. So here we go. We're doing it again. We create our variable. We're declaring initialize it, and we're trying to get access to whatever's inside that array. Well, again, arrays are index based. -1 is not a part of it. That means it's not there because 0 is the first index, so it's nothing before 0. And then 100, there's nothing past this C#. So when the compiler looks for something there at 100 index, it's going to realize, wait a minute, there is nothing else there after this string right here, C#. So therefore, it's going to let you know, hey, that's undefined. Arrays are mutable. In programming, mutability refers to what happens when you attempt to change a value. Remember that strings are immutable, meaning that any change to a string results in a new string being created. In contrast, arrays are mutable, meaning that individual items in an array can be edited without a new array being created. Now, this is what we understand when I say things can change, it can be destroyed. Whereas a string is immutable, you create a new variable. You have the same variable, all you're doing is reassigning it with a new string. But with arrays, you can remove something and it's removed. It's not giving you a new array. It's changing. It's changed that array. It's mutable. Update an array item in an array using bracket notation and index. So here we go. We declare and initialize this variable called JavaScript frameworks, and we got React, Angular, Ember, and then we console.log JavaScript framework. And so if we just when we go ahead and we console.log it, we see what the result is right here. It just gives us everything that's inside of the array. Now, JavaScript framework 2, we want to get access to the second index, so 0, 1, 2, and we're going to reassign it view. That's what we're doing. We're reassigning it view. Remember, now we've changed it. This first one now, it no longer exists. This React, Angular, Ember, this is now the new array. So understand that we made it to the end of this section. Understand that you can mutate an array. It's mutable. So therefore, you got to keep that in mind, that you're changing it. It's not saving anything. It's actually changing it. And it's a reason for that, why we wanted to do that. So what you have learned to this point, continue to work at it, continue to refresh your memory and go over your what you've learned in the past, and keep on refreshing your memory and understanding it. But get that understanding is so important. But the only way you're going to do that is to keep practicing, because you want to build your confidence now. So we made it to the end of this section. Remember, the more you do, the more you improve. See you in the next section.